Before I start this video, I could not be more grateful for all the mind-blowing and surprising support I've gotten for that video. The number of comments engaging and having a good time alongside all those kind words as well are very heartwarming to me. And I do apologize if I wasn't doing the best quality, if I wasn't producing the best quality I am trying to produce now, but rest assured I am committed to learning from my mistakes. And I'd also like to thank my friend TrueDoom for helping me write the script for the video. You were a tremendous help in adding critiques and corrections to the video I was responding to, and I could not be more grateful for your support. I just hope you find my videos as fruitful as I hope they are. Now, with all that being said, Conquest is... I don't think I've ever had such a rapidly declining interest and rapidly increasing dislike for a character like Conquest. Someone who was slingshotted into popularity from the jump by all the constant free publicity fans were doing for him before his debut, as well as Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but come on, it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's a legend, alright?
Dun 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 dun. Little pig, let me in.
And after all that, can simply be reduced to a villain of the week, essentially. But for now, allow me to start with...
Stand ready for my arrival, worm.
Before I begin, I'd like to kindly request that everyone take off their rose-tinted glasses and really think back to how Conquest was set up. Before his arrival at the end of Episode 7, he is foreshadowed near the end of Season 2, Episode 7 by Anissa when she says,
"Killing you is not my task. But soon, another will come. And if he finds you still resistant to your destiny, he will demonstrate the error of your ways, and this whole planet will pay the price."
Now, on the surface that may seem serviceable, but when you look deeper into it, it doesn't give enough substance to Conquest's character, an ominous feeling behind the viewer's back. He isn't name-dropped, and we aren't shown any legitimate win from him before his official debut. For all we know, Anissa could have been referencing Thrag or some other Viltrumite. We only know she's talking about Conquest because the comics have already been spoiled on his arrival. But from a meta standpoint, unless we are shown any of his capabilities before getting his ass beat by Mark and Eve, he has no legitimate looming threat status on the audience besides the manufactured hype pre-Season 3 finale edits gave him. In fact, you don't even need to name-drop Conquest. All the writers really needed to do was showcase his might early on before his proper introduction, or at the bare minimum provide a few more characters referencing him and his legacy. An example being, considering Conquest mentioned that he met Mark's father when he was a boy, perhaps they could have shown a flashback to one of Conquest's victories and a young Nolan appears. Starstruck by the brutality of him, and they share a brief interaction with that maybe inspires Nolan to be the best warrior he can be, which would then make sense since Conquest noted that Nolan showed such promise before his betrayal. Much like the previous episode, the show goes to great, and by great I mean zero, lengths to display supplementary contextual events. Adding a scene like that not only would have been a good display of his power, but also would have added more depth to what Conquest said to Mark about his father, deepening the emotional impact of their fight. However, without all that, what we get in the episode without rose-tinted glasses is just a random Viltrumite showing up and getting ready to raise hell, and then does so to a lesser degree than Nolan prior with the inevitable Invincible secret writing sauce. He loses the fight after Mark gets his story buff. Of course, that does not compare to how shallow his actions are in the episode itself. However, when I was writing this script, I was so conflicted on what to actually write for this section. However, I soon realized that Conquest really doesn't do that much in this episode. Sure, he destroys buildings and kills people, but that's just what almost every other villain in the show does. I mean, in the last episode, we literally had already seen everything that Conquest does when the variants attack. It's either he's destroying things in a battle with Mark, or he's paralleling Omni-Man, except without any of the emotional stakes that Mark's battle with Nolan had. It's all hollow when all he's doing is something any other Viltrumite could be doing. Just because he's a stronger foe doesn't make his actions have more of an impact. The only real original action he did was kill Eve, which increased the stakes to an immense level, albeit for only like a minute until his only win this episode gets stripped away from him when Eve revives herself. Regardless, this results in Mark eventually going into an adrenaline-induced rage and ultimately knocking him unconscious, or in Mark's head, killing him. But we know from Extreme Levy, however, that it isn't simply enough to leave your victim's brains hanging out on the sand, but I digress. And that's all that happens, and I know some of you are thinking, but what about Oliver? Oh, you mean Oliver who's present to distract Mark and gets nearly killed several times, failing to activate Mark's Invincible trigger like Eve's actual death does? Right. This all simply results in only two impacts on Mark's character because of Conquest. Mark being able to demonstrate his stronger capabilities, and him deciding that now he's going to kill people, which could have been done by any other villain. In fact, Mark was going to kill Angstrom during the Invincible War before he escaped, and I'll expand on this point in a bit, but first, I know what you are all thinking, but Conquest's personality, what he said left an impact on Mark. Except, it didn't, because after all is said and done, Mark doesn't think back on anything Conquest said after he supposedly killed him, only using Conquest's actions as a justification to kill people now, which as I said before could have been done with any other villain with actual substance to their character, like Angstrom during the Invincible War. An actual example of someone's personality, their words, leaving an impact on Mark would be Powerplex. Now, I don't think Powerplex is all that great, however, what he says to Mark about needing to take accountability for the lives that are lost because of him, directly or otherwise, justified or not, sensical or nonsensical, still left Mark second-guessing himself and filling his head with doubt. He left an impact on Mark that I'm sure will be expanded upon later. Powerplex challenged Mark, unlike Conquest, who simply vents to Mark about his internal frustrations, because yes, while he has no one to talk to and it is reminiscent of a psychopath, Mark ultimately doesn't care about what he has to say, so why should the audience? The answer, by the way, is shock value. Oh, what a weirdo scary person, look at him whisper creepy things. That being said, however, well done on the monologues, Jeffrey D. Morgan, stay goated. Before we move on to solutions, as any good critique should provide, let's delve a little deeper into just how weak and substituted the Conquest encounter was. As a character, Nolan performed this exact type of event prior in Season 1. No doubt most viewers recognized the connection, but it seems the impact and value was not recognized for what it was. Omni-Man's bullying of Mark is far more significant than the entirety of Conquest's appearance and departure. Let's run a short list of the qualities and story beats of Omni-Man. Number 1. Total betrayal. Nolan, for those of you who weren't in the know, was Mark's father, who he looked up to and wanted to be. He outright wanted to become the same symbol and wield the same power Nolan did. From the moment he found out he had powers, that itself carries two weights. Nolan did not allow civilians to be harmed, on record. He's no Homelander. He protected the civilians from the threats around him, and here he was, murdering anyone and everyone. Number 2. Brutality against humans. Murdering humans wasn't enough. He emphasized the fact that he viewed them as toys, as nothing. The very creatures Mark was so adamant to use his powers to protect, used as literal 0.001% damage impacts as he shattered Mark's face on them. Most impactful of all this is the train scene, during which Mark's face, in order to obliterate endless human victims by merely holding him in place, was the entire point. Nolan's purpose is killing humans wasn't simply to erase them, it was to separate them from his son, who he was trying to save from these meaningless morals he was raised with. Number 3. A weaponized relationship. Nolan knew who Mark was, his quirks, his behavior, and childhood. Nolan himself had something to lose if this didn't go well for his son. Even when he states the memorable lines of, "I could always start again, have another kid," he's legitimately trying to get Mark on his side. If he wasn't, he'd just be smashing his skull in like we all know he could. Mark isn't strong enough to survive Omni-Man at this time. He quite literally is only alive during the fight because Nolan is hoping he will turn to the Viltrumite side. Ultimately, the thing that stops the fight at all is Nolan himself losing heart. The brutality and conflict of Nolan's fight with Mark is entirely locked in with Nolan's position, their relationship, and the reveal for Mark as a person that his father, the good man, is effectively evil. The reality forced into his face at a locomotive speed. And then we get Conquest. Conquest wants to punch the punchable people because he's brutal and mean and Mark is just here to stop him? Conquest? More like evil spaceman. Gone are the notes of father-son, the notes of superheroism turned villainy, the notes of your protected class being turned into nothing but debris, covered in blood of strangers for a purpose, beaten to a pulp as a plea to switch sides, resolute in teenage stubbornness because maybe, just maybe, you can stop him, despite him being so much more powerful than you. Gone is the sympathy of Nolan's bullying. In with the off-tune piano key smacking that is Conquest Jurassic Parking humanity itself. I would say he stole his whole flaw, word for word, bar for bar, but he only stole the instrument and threw it in the trash instead of playing a melody. Oh no, what if he kills my girlfriend I abandon the world to sit next to in a hospital? Oliver, no, run away, little idiot, oh no, not the people on the beach, those were people! Now I keep saying that Conquest could be replaced by any other villain and have not only the same impact that he gave Mark, but potentially more given the new character has actual substance, and I'd like to introduce who I'd think would be the perfect candidate. Anissa. I know, you're all thinking about that scene from the comics. However, not only can we still have that scene, but we can also have a better Season 3 finale with Anissa. Think about it. Considering what she said about someone coming to finish what she started in Season 2 was so vague, you could easily replace that line with something along the lines of, "Killing you is not my task, but if I return and find this planet still defiant of the Viltrum Empire, it will be." Not only does that line come full circle if she returns in the finale, but she also increases the emotional stakes for Mark during her arrival, since last time they met, Mark got his ass beat very easily by her. With Conquest, Mark only reacted to him with blind rage, nothing specific to him. But with Anissa, he would react with not only rage, but also with fear, because he doesn't know if he can beat Anissa considering he knows she beat him last time. Maybe he even thinks he can beat her with more confidence after training and pulling through this season's events, an easy moment to farm the surprise off his face when she proves she's been holding back significantly all along. Anissa is also not as unstable as Conquest, so what she would say to him would have substantive meaning to Mark. Her words come from his first encounter with another Viltrumite who wasn't his father, and that's another important memory for him in the first place. Matching him with the previous meeting along with the new focus from Anissa is inherently superior to new boy Conquestador. Just like how it was in Season 2, maybe Mark tries to reason with Anissa like he did with Conquest, only this time Anissa actually listens and finds out about the Invincible War. Listen to me. Earth has suffered so much in the past 3 days. You don't have to do this. You don't need to do this. Earth has suffered enough. Please. Only for Anissa to use it as further justification for Viltrumite rule by saying, I do not doubt your sympathy for the people of this planet, but isn't what you just told me not further proof that rule under the Viltrum Empire will be nothing but a blessing for this planet? Security to ensure nothing like what has happened ever happens again? Maybe this time you'll learn. Not to mention as well, when Anissa eventually starts killing people in her battle with Mark, those deaths have meaning. Since if you recall in her debut episode, she never kills anybody, justifying herself by saying she started with reason. But now in the finale, the time for reason has passed for her, and she's now keeping her word and killing people as a result of Earth's continued defiance. All of this bloodshed would eventually cause Mark to snap and go all out in trying to kill Anissa, with him eventually succeeding or at least thinking he did. Like Conquest, Mark could simply unknowingly knock her out and Cecil could restrain her. And since we know Conquest will eventually break out, Anissa could easily do the same and then come back to do that scene with Mark, which would be significantly amplified emotionally since not only is she coming back to do an unspeakable thing to Mark, but it's happening to Mark from someone that he thought was dead. Regardless, Mark still thinking he killed Anissa not only demonstrates his increase in power better since he's now won a rematch against someone who kicked his ass easily before, but also can still solidify Mark into coming to the realization that he now has to kill people. In conclusion, I think after finishing this script, Conquest is not only a terrible villain, but also one of the most wasted villains in Invincible, considering even just one flashback scene of an establishing win for the character could have drastically increased his presence and impact on Mark. Of course, not that I think they should have wasted time on him to begin with, since as I stated before, Anissa would have simply been the better storytelling option for Mark and his journey throughout the show. So those are just my thoughts, however. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video around to see what others think as well. Until next time, see ya.